So proud to call the city my home today. This is where my story is unfolding, but this is not where it started. As most of you may know, I am not a native of this great nation. I moved to the United States over 2 decades ago from Sierra Leone in West Africa. One of my earliest memories in Sierra Leone was living with loving, hard-working parents and my 4 siblings. My parents believed that girls deserved to have just as many opportunities to thrive as boys did, despite the fact that the dominant culture did not value girls as much as it did with sons. We lived in an unsafe environment. My parents made a brave choice to move our family out of Sierra Leone to Brunei, Southeast Asia, where I spent my formative teenage years. College brought me to America, and I have worked hard to be where I am today. I know what it feels like to be in fear for my safety and for the safety of my family. And that's why I strive to live a meaningful, safe, and productive lifestyle. As a member of Greensboro's Criminal Justice Advisory Commission and the Police Community Review Board, I am committed to directly addressing the increasing rates of violence in Greensboro. I care about my community, all of my community, and I have demonstrated my level of care through my leadership and my volunteerism. I am also a mother of 3 beautiful daughters, and I wholeheartedly believe that the quality education of our children is one of our most powerful investments. In addition to public safety and education, I am a strong advocate for business equity and a city that paves the way for robust economic opportunities for all hardworking people who deserve the chance to make a decent living as an employee or an entrepreneur. I believe that we can achieve so much more together than we could if we continued in the polarizing manner we have sadly become so accustomed to. I am a bridge builder and a unifier who has the experience, stamina, and the intellect required for a position of this magnitude. Now let's be honest, even though every hardworking person deserves these fundamental things in life, that is not always the reality. I'm here to advocate for those individuals who know that under truly equitable circumstances, our lives would be different. They would be better. In my experience, there are 4 common areas of concerns for citizens of any city, regardless of our backgrounds. We all want similar things in life. We want safe and comfortable living conditions, quality education for ourselves and our children, a sense of protection and accountability, and most of all, we want to be able to use our skills and expertise in order to make a decent living and thrive. Between now and the elections in March 2022, my team and I will be hosting a series of campaign events. I would love to meet you. Your voice matters and your experience matters. My name is Franca Jalloh, and I am your candidate for Greensboro City Council at large. Thank you.
Hello. Welcome to another edition of Social Media Review. But actually today we have a very special program. Even though it is Social Media Review, but it is going to take a very different angle. We're having a major interview of one of our finest ladies who has decided to answer the great call made by President John Kennedy on January 20, 1961, asking citizens not to ask what this great Jeffersonian constitutional republic can do for them, but in reverse, what they can do. Tonight, to help, set this into context and perspective, I'll be bringing you one of our finest ladies who is going to run for an office. But before then, let me bring my co-host, attorney at law, Mr. Mohammed Shillong, who we formally welcome you guys to this place. We go back and then we start bringing, the people who are participating in corresponding order. Back to you, Mr. Shillong.
Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. And we say greetings in all these terms because This is an interactive show. As we broadcast, people are hearing all over the world, and people can even call in to ask questions. So what it is in some part of the world, as we all know, is daytime. Some part of the world is nighttime. Some part of the world is midday. So we normally say good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on what part of the world you are. So for that reason, that's why I'm saying good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So we are glad to have Ms. Franca on board, and she is an extraordinary inspiration to even some of us who are older, and definitely for the young ones coming up, particularly people with whom she shares the same background, and from Africa, but all around the world, black as well as white young people around the world. So it's very refreshing to know that you do not have to be born and raised in this country to be able to participate in their participatory democracy. So it is very refreshing to know that. And we strongly encourage Ms. Franca to continue the good work. And may I also welcome Ms. Zainab as well as Ms. Zita, or Ziti, I'm sorry, who are part of a campaign. And we hope you people have some good things to tell us. And we want you to know that whatever you say is being heard and seen around the world. So it's not only locally here in Greensboro or in Raleigh or in North Africa. We get calls because this is a live show. So we do get calls from everywhere, India, Australia, Turkey, you name it, so don't be surprised if people call from any one of these places. So that said, we're pleased to have you, and we hope we can make the best out of this situation. Thank you so much for being on board, and I'll turn you over to Mr. Kutubu, my co-host.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shillong, for that brief remarks. Now we're going to kick off this very important gathering here tonight. Let me invite Lady Zainab Kamara, who I have it on very good authority. She's actually one of the movers and shakers of this wonderful or phenomenal journey which our lady is going to honor. Ms. Kamara, could you come in and please just crystallize for us what we're looking at here now? Back to you. If Miss Zainab is not there, can I ask Miss Zeta to please step in temporarily until we have the Zainab on the line? Miss Zeta, can you pick it up and just lay out the indications? So what are we looking at? Where are we going? What is all this about?
Sure, certainly. It really is an honor to be here. My role, as you all know, is to support public relations and communications for Franca's campaign. I was born originally in Swaziland in southern Africa, and both of my parents ended up getting student visas to Greensboro College when I was 4 years old. So my African family is one of the families that has utilized the resources that were available for immigrants in Greensboro. So before I even met Franca personally, she and I were connected just by virtue of our experiences as Africans in North Carolina. I've been educated in Greensboro and have been able to see how the disparities in our city have played out for me and my classmates over the past 40 years. And what's happened, what I know, is that the evolution of technology has opened the door for us to see parts of the world that we've never seen before. And so people in Greensboro are ready for a change. We're ready for something different. And Franca is exactly the type of leader that Greensboro needs. She's running for an at-large seat on the Greensboro City Council. And so it's really, really important for all of us to get behind her we have. Greensboro Greensboro is a college city. We have 7 colleges and universities here. I teach in the Department of Communication Studies at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And I know that one of the conversations that we've been having so frequently is, how do we retain the graduates? How do we, once these young people graduate from the universities, how do we keep them in Greensboro as opposed to having them kind of drawn away by larger cities with more things happening? So it's very, very apparent that we need a young leader like Franca to offer insight to our city council as decisions are being made about prospective residency for young people and for others. Our city's demographics, we've got about 47% white and about 41% Black, so it's quite diverse. Franca is a candidate that has this unique ability to interact with people who are different from herself, and so she's operated very much as a bridge builder, and she's made us all extraordinarily proud. She brings a sort of warmth to local politics that we really, really need, but she's also quite shrewd, and it's really balanced and powerful. So again, it really is an honor to be able to support her and her campaign. Anything that you all can do in support of her will really, really be appreciated. We're a team mostly of African women. We're very resourceful. We've gotten a lot done with a little bit, but imagine what we can get done with even more. So thank you again for having us here.
Ms. Zainab Kamara, to lay out the template for us on the show, sir.
She's muted again.
Is she muted?
Sounds like it. It seems like it. Let her know.
Is she there? Well, at this stage, if she's not there, is she there? I would then like
technical
to...
team, she's having difficulty with her.
Well, okay. Well,
audio.
No. At the point in time, she would talk. What I want you to do, Mr.
Introduce
Jalloh,
the other people. Yeah.
Who is the next person on the list, please?
There are 2 people back there.
There were actually 2 of them that I had, Dr. Zita and Zainab. I don't know whether we have any other person.
Yeah, there are 2 sitting with her who can introduce themselves.
Well, can we bring in the gentleman there and the blue? Can you please introduce yourself, sir, and then come also give us your own take on this important journey. Give us your take. And what's your name, sir?
My name is Tim Benson. I am working on the campaign with Franca. And just my take with everything, of course, it's an honor for me to be able to sit here today with Franca. As the first time I actually met Franca, I knew she was going to be a powerhouse. Just a little bit of an opportunity I did have to speak with her. I've actually been engaged in politics in the city for the last 15 years of just working to make sure, as I've lived here, I'm born and raised in Greensboro, North Carolina, and it's always been important to me to make sure that we have leaders that's actually going to make a difference in our area. And as I began to talk to Franca more and just see her works that she worked throughout the community, we definitely got together. I started meeting with other leaders and other community people around the community and started bringing her name up to watch and just kind of see her works a little bit more. And as we continue to see how she led, how she, as humble as she was in her work, she still just had a fierceness in her that just was not going to take no when she saw things were not right for the citizens and for the residents of this area. And the first time we actually called Franca, I know she understood and she probably thought we was looking to fill her out and ask her a whole bunch of questions. But as we came together to meet with Franca, we had already, as a community, had made up our mind that we was going to stand behind her and support her. So just through that support, through her work that she has done throughout this community, she is definitely a leader. And as the city of Greensboro and us sitting in this position, we understand that we're not going to be able to hold Franca long. Her community leadership, her leadership overall is bigger than just Greensboro. So we hope this is definitely a launching pad for her to be able to lead much bigger platforms and much bigger initiatives than just city council and city council at large for Greensboro. So as we always say, a win for Franca is a win for all.
Thank you. If he's
Are you able
finished,
to hear me now?
Yes,
Mr. Shillon,
yes.
can we invite Ms. Kumara? If she's not there, can we then bring in the eldest daughter of the candidate?
She is. She can hear us now. She just asked. I can hear her.
Ms. Zainab Kumara, can you please come in and give us your take on this very, very, very extraordinary journey that our dear ladies beginning to undertake? Give us your take on this.
Yes. So I joined as Franca's campaign manager back in June when she told me she was doing this. That marked about a 1-year anniversary of our friendship. I met Franca online, actually. She was very instrumental in helping my family have my father, Dr. Seth Kamara, released from incarceration in Sierra Leone. And she didn't know me at all. She didn't know anything about my family. We never met prior to that. And she helped me to launch a really formidable campaign that got my dad released in those 12 days. And in those 12 days, I learned, one, the power of social media and the power of one voice. And since then, we've had a very great personal relationship, but I definitely knew that she is the kind of professional that you need to see in politics now. She's a mother, as you can see. Me too, I'm on my comrade duties, with great vision and great discipline. And in the, I would say, 4 months that we've been running this campaign, she's been very diligent. She's been punctual. She's been responsible. She's been resourceful, and she's kept a large vision for all of us. She's a pleasure to work with all the time. She's flexible. She's understanding. And she's incredibly professional. So this is really not just her personal venture, and she'll be the first to tell you that, but we all have children here in America now, and we understand that we have a responsibility to shape the society that they're going to live in. Politics is one of the most important ways that we can do that. So I'm behind Franca 100%, and I'd encourage anyone who has children, especially first-generation children who are born here, who are going to engage these American systems, to participate in supporting her so we can create a future for all of our children where we are all included. So, and thank you guys so much for hosting us and having us to connect with your audience.
Thank you. Mr. Shillon, see if we have another person who's going to add something very, very, very colorful to this. Short of that, we'll bring in the eldest daughter to come see what moral support she's going to lend to the mom.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Sheena Beasley. I am today honored to support my friend and my sister, Franca Jalloh, and just here to say that I have been a lifelong resident of Greensboro, North Carolina, and so I have seen quite a bit of change, and I feel like we are ready for a new set of eyes, a new set of hands to further what is going on in Greensboro at the present time. With her heart, I know that she can lead us. I see in her giving, ever since we have met, I have seen how she has embraced me, has supported my efforts. So I am definitely here to support her. And as a senior citizen here in Greensboro, I believe she would also benefit not just the young people, but us as well. So I believe that she is knowledgeable. She knows what we need to go forward to be a stable society right here in Greensboro. So I'm just honored to be a part of this campaign. I support her in every way. I am just glad to be a part, and I encourage all of those who hear us today to support her. She is deserving, and I too believe that she will go a long way because of her heart and what she wants to see done to better society. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the last speaker in the campaign. Mr. Chilon, is it possible you can formally invite the eldest daughter to come lend her more support to the dear mom?
Yes, I mean, eldest daughter, please say something. Tell us who you are, your age, where you go to school, and how supportive are you of mom, and so on. Whatever you want to say, just speak your heart out. You don't necessarily have to be formal.
We'll start from the two youngest and then she'll continue. Go ahead.
No, if you want the youngest one to contribute, okay, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Jalloh and I am 9 years old.
Control room, can we see her face, please?
You understand that?
Okay, there we go.
Okay, so good afternoon.
Shy lady. Can we get the next beautiful supporter of mom
Does the young one to your right want to say something?
Yes, so she too can support mom. Can she come say hi in support of mom?
I support my mom in everything because she has been working really hard. She has business. Hi, my name is Zainab, and I support my mom because she has been working hard and she wants to help people and build.
Hello, I'm Jalloh Jalloh and I'm 15 years old. I attend the Point Lodge Preparatory Academy, and I'm just here to say that I support my mom running for Greensboro City Council at large. She's a hard worker, she's dedicated, she cares about people, and she's my biggest role model. I've seen her build her business and advocate for people and take in other people's concern like it's her own. And I love her very much. I'm very proud of her, and I'm asking you all to support her in her position. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Miss Jalloh, I think you have a great successor right behind you.
Oh,
she has
yes,
all
she
it
does.
takes just by listening to her. So keep it up, young lady. You have a great future ahead of you. So I mean, you've done far more than I did my first time on a show like this. So don't be shy. You're doing great. Welcome to the show. Okay. So let me turn you over to Mr. Kutubu.
Okay, Mr. Shilon, that said, I want to give you the greatest honor and privilege to bring in the guest of honor today, a lady that we've heard of. Of course, you heard the commercial, you saw the way she presented herself and her case. I'm asking you to bring her in because the two of you share the same profession. You are all lawyers by avocation. So it is now my distinct honor and privilege to please ask you to welcome our distinguished guest for this evening, Mr. Shilon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kuroma. We welcome Ms. Jalloh on the show. I have heard a lot about her. At one time, I even thought she lived in Wake County because there's so much said about her in Wake County, North Carolina, as we hear from Greensboro. So she's very popular down here too. But I also would like for the audience to know, particularly those back home, that when you run a campaign back home and here, it takes money. So even though she's running for a local office here, I'm strongly encouraging those back home who are following this show to please, at the end, before the end of the show, to be able to, we'll give you information where if you want to contribute to our campaign, and those of us who are here in other states, because there are so many Sierra Leoneans who are proud of her running. And so a lot of people from outside North Carolina or Greensboro will be more than happy to make some contribution towards a campaign. So I hope she will be able, the campaign coordinator, Ms. Kamara, we hope before the show ends or before this segment ends, you'll be able to come up with some kind of information to allow people watching this show to send contributions that they may have. That said, Ms. Jalloh, it's a pleasure to have you. I'm proud to share the same profession with you. And everything we've heard so far about you has been very, very, very positive. So by all indication, if you are elected, there is a lot you will contribute to the social fabric of Greensboro. And there is a lot by virtue of your background that will help the diversity of the council. So with that, I say welcome, and please, I turn it over to you. Introduce yourself, and then just tell us what you have in mind to tell us. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to say good afternoon to everyone, good evening, good morning to wherever it is that you are in the part of the world. I want to say thank you, first of all, to VOS for hosting this show, for actually asking me to be a part of this program. I am really honored and touched to be in front of this audience. As a Sierra Leonean woman myself, I know that Voice of Salone carries a lot, and you guys have an impact around the world. So I'm very proud and very honored to be a part of this show. So thank you so much for having me on board. Secondly, I would want to say thank you to my team. Thank you to Dr. Zidi, to Zainab Kamara, to my children, to Sheena Beasley, and to Tim Vincent for being here for me, to supporting me throughout this journey. My parents, my family are my biggest supporters. My children, I did not take this journey alone. I actually asked permission from my children, from my mom, who is in New York, who lives in Binghamton, New York City. And I just basically just wanted to make sure that my family is on board with me before taking on this journey. So I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for being part of my life and for supporting me as I take on this political journey. It's a new one for me, but something that I feel in my heart is a call. I'm destined to do this. I'm ready, I'm willing, and I'm very excited. Dr. Shilan and Mr. Kutubu Kuruma, you guys are amazing. I look up to you in so many ways. I've seen you, I've heard about you. As you know, Dr. Shilan says in Wake County, in Raleigh area, I know a lot of people from that end. And all I do is just to be myself, to support people as much as I can in terms of what are the needs of our community, in terms of how can I advocate to push us forward as Africans in Greensboro, in North Carolina, and also as Sierra Leoneans. How can we push ourselves forward? How can we make ourselves more impactful and actually make a difference in this world? I know that at the end of the day, we have a legacy to leave behind. And so everything I do, I try to do it with a conscience to make sure that I leave something that I'm going to be proud of one day in the future. So this political journey for me started with people asking me to be a part of it. It's not something I planned. In fact, I said no for such a long time. I, denied it. I said, nope, I'm not a politician. I'm never going to be involved in politics. I will support as much as I can. But as time went by, I realized that it was time for me to do more. It's one thing to sit on the sidelines and watch while things unfold,
But it's another thing to actually take a step and say, I want to be the difference. I want to make a difference in the life of others. And that's the step I've taken, and I'm committed to doing so and making sure that everyone around me, we have a voice, we have things that we need to make sure that we can survive and thrive in this society, in this economy, in this country that we live in. A lot of people know that, North Carolina is a refugee hub, Greensboro in particular. There are a lot of people who are resettled here. We have a high concentration of immigrants and refugees in this area. There's a good number of Sierra Leoneans in the area. In fact, the statistic shows that there's about 33.5% of Africans in the North Carolina, in the Greensboro area alone. Yet still, we don't have representation. There's no representation on council. There's no representation on local government, as well as the leadership in terms of rally and the state and so on and so forth. And so the community got together and organized themselves. They formed a PAC called the Greensboro African Public Action Committee, GAPAC. They formed a PAC, and out of all these really strong men and women and so on in this PAC, they chose me, asking me to run for council. That came as a big surprise because I have always seen myself as a supporter, being that, there's just so much I'm doing already. And I'm a very busy person. As you can see, I'm a mom. I take my duties very seriously as a mom. I run an immigration nonprofit organization. I do immigration legal services. I take my community and my work very seriously in terms of advocating for the people that we serve. And I sit on a lot of commissions and boards. I sit on the Greensboro Criminal Justice Advisory Commission. I also sit on the public, my daughters are running around and distracting me. So I sit on the Greensboro Police Department Review Board. So I sit on that Police Community Review Board, as well as the Ad Hoc Committee for Disparity Studies. And so that being said, I'm in the capacity of advocating for people in terms of their safety, the justice and peace, and so on and so forth, actually working towards making sure that some of these policies we need to see made to protect our community members are actually done. So I've taken time to review police complaints and make recommendations in terms of that capacity, and also looking at policies and making recommendations in terms of changes we need to see made so that things that we care about are actually met. We make recommendations to council and they implement it based on our recommendation. We spend hours on end looking at some of these policies. And at the end of the day, it has made a difference to the point that I've had housing code laws change. I've been instrumental in being a part of a lot of things in our community. And a lot of people around the world, when they call me for different things that's going on locally in the city and around, for some reason, I'm able to find the resources and the means to navigate the system and be able to help them reach some kind of conclusion to address their problems. So I think what we need in local government is people who care, people who can actually do the work, the research, and have the interest and also the knowledge to make these things work out for the greater good of all. It's not something that's self-serving. It's something that should be, we need to look at what the community needs to move forward and develop. And so far, I'm not one to talk about some of the things that I've done, but I think it has made a huge difference for them to look and say, Franca, we need you to be a part of this change that we need in Greensboro. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am here as a woman, as a mom, as a Sierra Leonean, as an African, and as someone who realizes that there's a need, an actual need for us to have a voice. We cannot just go through this world, this country that we live in, and not have a say. We own businesses here, we own homes, we have children born here, we are here paying taxes and so on. It's high time that we put in an additional effort. We're already putting in a lot of effort to improve ourselves and our family. But why don't we go a step further to make sure that everybody else around us and we have lasting change that matters? So that's where I am right now. That's the step and that's the stage I am, to think about ways that I can kind of help move things forward, to take that next step so that my community, our community, can have a better life, a better future. Thank you.
Having laid out all these wonderful goals and objectives, my first question though, if elected to the city council, what do you expect to bring to the table in terms of governance?
Okay, that's a very, very good question. First of all, my voice on council will be a unique voice. It will be one that has not been heard of in Greensboro City Council ever. It will be one that looks at things not just in a black and white view, but looking at things as someone from the community, someone grassroots who understands the depth of what's going on here. I have immersed myself in this community so much that I'm welcome in different spaces. I'm welcome to talk to people from all walks of lives here and interact with them on different levels. So I'll be a voice that is needed and necessary to kind of address some of these issues in terms of education of our children. I'm one who believes that, our children's education really, really matters. It's not just enough for them to go through the system and not get left behind, but it's something that we need to invest our time and so on to make sure that the future of our children is much more better. And which means that we need to look at some of these, the teachers are not receiving enough pay. They're complaining that they're not being respected and encouraged enough to do the job that they're doing. The students themselves are lacking behind in the proper education, the quality education that they need. We have one of the top education in the United States, but yet still in some of the communities, we see children are just passing to the next grade without being able to really read or write or make themselves, into productive members of societies like they should. And then at the end of the day, they graduate from these high schools and so on and end up in minimum paying jobs. We need to invest in the future of our children so that they can get into the kind of jobs that they need to move on to that next level in life. And an additional thing, like Dr. Ziti mentioned, in terms of the education of our children, a lot of people graduate from universities here in Greensboro. There are 7 universities, top colleges here, but they out-migrate. They go out into different cities to work. We need to find ways to keep them here in the city, within the city, so that they can actually pour into the city and lift up our economy, lift up our community to a much more better level. North Carolina is the 28th largest state in the whole United States. We are the 28th largest out of 50 states, but most of our graduates, especially in Greensboro, they out-migrate after graduation. I also want to advocate for, in terms of the justice system and safety, I want to make sure that the community members are not just being seen as targets. There's a lot of issues going on here. I'm not sure if you heard about Marcus Smith in Greensboro. That was, he was killed due to police brutality and so on.
Ms. Jalloh, let me just punctuate you on that. Let me bring in Mr. Shillong. Since you've talked something about this justice system, Mr. Shillong, being a lawyer also, I'm sure he can really. Mr. Shillong, why don't you pick up on that and see how you can come in the context of justice system, racism, xenophobic conduct, and all the rest of it. How can you relate to what she just said, sir?
Well, in many ways I can. In many ways, it's interesting to know that part of why she's running is to make changes in those areas. When I was a young lawyer, many, many years ago here in North Carolina doing criminal practice, I had my own contribution to make, and I did a lot of cases. I was a defense attorney, and I did cases all the way up to the North Carolina Supreme Court. I have some reported cases, and I've always been particularly interested in issues of that type because the system has not always been very kind to a large number of people, particularly people who are in the lower economic scale. So it's refreshing to hear her talking about part of what she has in mind and part of what she intends to contribute to. is to improve the justice system, because which we so badly need, particularly in areas like this where we know there is still a lack of interest in preserving lives on the part of the police. I had my own beef with the police, and I'm not talking about Greensboro police, Raleigh police. I think the police are people of a certain mentality. There's a prevailing mentality worldwide of police. You give them a badge, a loan, and a baton, and they are willing to go out and not act quite reasonably as you will expect. But in the United States, it's even worse, because you give them a badge and give them a gun, and they think they owe no courtesy to people. They can just use that and bulldoze their way into someone's house and trample over someone's freedom. So it's always refreshing, because I had my own beef. I tried a lot of cases involving those type of abuses, and some of the outcomes of which I wasn't too pleased with, but it is what it is. So, Ms. Franca, that said, it's refreshing that this is part of what you are really trying to improve. And you also mentioned to us that you're on the committee or the review board of the police, and you are in the Criminal Justice Commission. So I just wonder, in specific terms, do you have any specific recommendations if you are elected to the city council? Because I know in this country, as in most jurisdictions, the police usually is run by the city. Every city has its own police. So if you're a city council member, it is clear that there are going to be suggestions, proposals from time to time that will affect every aspect of the running of the police. So do you have any specific ideas in mind, if given a chance, if elected, that you think is so necessary that you will waste no time in proposing at your first city council meeting?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've had the privilege of researching on restraint methods, maximum restraint methods. And so I think that's one of the things we saw with the George Floyd case, where the maximum restraint method was that hog time method that causes, the heart to fail, you're not able to breathe and so on. I think that's one of the things that we need to look at. The restraint method is one thing. The method is inhumane. It's something that needs to change. I've had the privilege of looking worldwide to see other ways that you can restrain someone who has this, delirium with them due to mental health issues, due to different things that's going on, medical issues and so on, that will not cause death. I know in New York, they have the maximum restraint method that looks like a body bag, wherein you are literally, restrained, like in like they do with the mental health patients, where they really hold you from moving and being able to, shake and so on, because obviously it's causing people to, when they're being restrained, they will kick, they will fight, they will punch. It will hurt the police officers. It will also hurt the vehicle, the property, state properties. But there are other ways to do it that's more humane, that will not risk death. I think maximum restraint method is one of the things that we need to look at and implement, so that we stop using these ancient ways of restraining people. Another thing too that we'll look at is these arrests that are going on due to marijuana and hemp, and the probable cause for actually stopping a vehicle and searching them. I don't think that's something that, since there's no distinguishing between hemp versus marijuana, that's one of the laws that, is going on all over America right now, that marijuana should be legalized. And yet still in North Carolina, in Greensboro, they're stopping people because of the smell of marijuana and using that as a probable cause. So we need to look at what's more egregious in terms of the crime that's going on versus stopping people who could possibly be doing something as using hemp, which is a medical means of, taking care of some certain illnesses that people have versus arresting them because of the marijuana. In other means, there's these courtesy policies that we think, that the police officers need to look at their courtesy policies and see what they're doing in terms of making the people much more upset and much more, there's this issue with police officers pulling a car and the way how they're treating citizens, one race versus another. We need to figure out how they can treat people equally across the board. If they're being courteous to one group of people, they need to be courteous to another group. Luckily for us in Greensboro, we now have a Black chief of police. It is one of the highlights of our city right now that we have a Black chief of police who is actually looking to address some of these issues. However, the city council needs to work more with the police chief so that we can actually implement some of these changes that matter to our city, that matter to keeping our citizens safe. So the maximum restraint method is something that I highly think that we need to look at so we can use more humane methods. We need to look at our probable cause for arrest and detaining someone, and also the consent to search. Our citizens need to know their rights. There need to be things put in place so that the citizens will know their rights when being pulled over. A lot of times when things escalate to that level, it's usually during traffic stops, simple traffic stops, when people don't know their rights, when when the city and also the police department are not being transparent and accountable enough, then things go wrong and things are not in the favor that they need to. Something very simple can turn out to something really, really bad. So one of my first duties, if I was to be elected as the next city council representative in the city of Greensboro, will be to make some of these recommendations so that we look at the policies, we look at the restraint methods, we look at also some of the national things that are, basically, the bail amount in terms of bail, putting bail for people, some of these things that have been taken away, lifted from other cities. In Greensboro, that is not the case. And so we need to look at some of these things and compare and make sure that we're progressing along with the rest of the nation. Nationally, we need to progress along with the rest of the world so that we are treating our citizens much more humane and with respect and dignity. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect. Everyone deserves an opportunity to have their rights not violated.
Thank you.
Knowing that Greensboro, this is the South, where racism is embedded, where a lot of things have happened over the years, we need to ensure that going forward, all these things that have been going on over the years will be put to an end, that people are treated in an equitable manner. I think that's one of the things that we need to focus on. Thanks.
Thank you. Let me bring you to something that is a familiar scenario or a Franca. People have there is this pervasive talk about racism, especially on the part of we the Black people. We've always held the white man accountable for our own failures, for the things we are not able to accomplish. How do you expect to change that mindset, especially you being somebody of a foreign background, coming to this place to make it to this level? How do you expect to change that mindset? Every now and then people blaming, somebody else for their failures, people blaming somebody else. How do you expect to change this mindset if you get elected to the city council? What's the message you would like people to take from this with your election eventually?
I think everything is economic too, in nature. I think the lack of equal opportunities for all the communities is what's making us feel like we're being left behind, that there are not enough opportunities to help us as Black people. At the end of the day, when I drive the car, I am a Black woman. And when you hear my accent, I'm from Africa. I'm a Sierra Leonean woman, I'm an African woman. So the first thing that comes up is she knowledgeable? Is she qualified? Do you have what it takes? And so everything else that happens to us as people of color in the South, in North Carolina, in America is worse, it's worse for our people. So I think what we need to address is making sure that we have opportunities for our community members so that when they go out, and also treated with dignity and respect, like I mentioned before, when they go out there and when we go out there to look for a job, in terms of employment opportunities, it should not be because of your name or because of your race or ethnicity. It should be because you have what it takes. You have done the work. You qualify the job for the job. So why can't they give us the same opportunities as they would with our white counterparts? I believe that the lack of opportunities in Greensboro is making things so much more difficult for our community members. And that's why racism will never really go away. When job applications for the city or for the state or so on and so forth is out there, it's, there is all these things that are putting us on a negative as Black people. A lot of communities do not have access to, good internet, to ability to, fill out these applications and so on. And all our communities are being left behind in terms of educational values and economic, putting some of our, prioritizing some of our communities so that we can actually have access to some of these things. We see developers come into our city in Greensboro. We see them with, they have the money and they have generational wealth from long time ago, their ancestors and their families. They have had years of being put in a better position more than the Black counterparts. So obviously, it's much more easy and much more resourceful for them to gain some of the things that we need as Black people in Greensboro. So I think everything in Greensboro, if there was a way to have access to the opportunities that we need as Black people, that African American counterparts need, it will help alleviate some of this racial tension. And also me coming in as someone from Africa, having grown up in Southeast Asia, Brunei, Southeast Asia, and who has lived in America for more than 20 years, I think that one of the things that I address is being able to bring everybody, uniting people, bringing all of them at the table somehow, and making them understand that we are not so different. The problem here is that people see race as, who is better, who is not, and also being, prejudicial to each other. That people who are, white are better, or people who are Black are less, and so on. So bringing everybody together at that table, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. But being able to unite all these groups. I am someone who's a bridge builder. I'm someone who, is able to access the Asian community, the white community, Latino communities, and the African communities, the Muslim, the Christian, as a Muslim woman myself with a Christian background. Bringing all these people together and saying, you know what, let's try and work together for a change. And let's try and look at all the issues that's going on around our city and take away race from this. How can we make sure that everybody has access, equal access, not just one having a leg up versus the other one just being fed, free rice, free food, free, food stamps and so on. But how can we teach the community members how to fish and get to that position where we're all getting what we need to progress and move forward in life? Not just for our generation, but for future generations to come. We see that there's a standstill, that once our families, are able to gain whatever it is, we can barely pay our rent, our mortgages, our bills. And so if this is happening with our families for generations, how can our future generations come and see a difference? Black people, unfortunately, are treated poorly in the United States, in the South, in Greensboro. And I think all of this also has to do with the mental part of things, not being able to have someone who's a unifier and pushing people together, bringing people together in the ways that needs to happen, and also economical. Once we address the grassroots problems of the economical status of Black people and look at the disparities of people of color versus the white counterparts, then we'll be making changes. We'll be making necessary changes. Looking at the disparity studies, seeing what has gone wrong over the years and moving forward.
Let her finish.
Yeah, Ms. Jalloh, I'd like Mr. Shinon to pick up this and see how he can expand this question of, people always thinking that, this question of entitlement, it is my right, it's my right. People do not want to make efforts. They think they are entitled to. Mr. Shillon, can you pick up on that question of entitlement and see how that juxtaposes her presentation?
Well, I have a radical view with respect to that. I believe, as an American, there should be a sense of entitlement, but I don't think it should be based on racial preference. That's the only problem I have. Entitlement is part and parcel of the economy of the United States. Sometimes there is a deliberate attempt by the authorities, the government, and people of the other race to project blacks as being the only ones. Like the other day, Senator Manchin said he doesn't want this nation when he was opposed to the $3.7 trillion 10-year term for improving the infrastructure of this country. And the statement was he doesn't want this nation to be a nation of entitlement. What that tells me, I think the senator got it wrong, because this country is built. Part of its infrastructure is built on entitlement. You see, the thing is, people are being miseducated because oil companies are being given billions of dollars to explore or to do explorations, and they feel entitled to it, and they get it. The American military gets almost $800 billion a year that they feel entitled to. Nobody complains about those large amounts. American farmers, who are mostly white, they get entitlement for poor farming, for bad recoupment of their crops or disaster, and they are given millions and millions to make up for their losses. These are all entitlements. But what I notice in this country, when you talk about entitlement, people immediately start thinking about the poor or the middle class. They fail to realize that even the rich are getting entitlements. In academia, people get not loans, but they get grants that are not paid back. And in some areas, in some of the big universities, they feel entitled to those things. So I try my best not to be caught up on those words. But when I talk to people who talk about entitlement, I say, well, if we can all address it across the board. But the vast majority of people in this country do not know that the US government gives billions, if not trillions of dollars to the rich. And they feel entitled to it. They feel so entitled that when you get a billionaire like Bezos, Jeff Bezos, who's worth at least personally $200 billion, not paying his employees $15 an hour, and they claim they cannot afford it, but the guy who works for $10, or like Walmart that pays its employees an average of $8 to $10 an hour, and so those who own Walmart think they're entitled to that. So the entitlement is across the board. So so I have a lot of problem. My take on entitlement in this country, it should not be specifically a reference to just the middle class and the poor. I think this country is wealthy enough to create. They've created the class, and there are various classes of entitlement. So I think people are. The wealth of this country entitles everybody to share in the wealth. But what I see in this country is that it's only one class of people who do it,
Thank you. What I'd like to do to ask one more question, and then we'll open a line, for callers to come in. Ms. Franca, I'm going to ask you a question that actually puts you in the balance. In the balance in the sense, though, here you are a foreigner, you are running for a national office in the United States. You mean a foreigner. But back home, the politicians look at us as if we are not entitled to, simply because we are out of the country. We are out of the country by choice. how do you, or what would be your suggestions in terms of, ameliorating that sort of imbalance? Imagine we're sending money, we're part of the economic system and everything. The politicians come here and pick money, but they don't want us to be part of the political process. But here you are in this great Jeffersonian constitutional republic. You've been a foreigner. You're trying to get yourself in a place where you'll be making decisions, having impact on the lives of citizens. How do you reconcile that sort of irony and contradiction?
Well, Mr. Kutubu, that's a very good question, actually. And knowing how our political atmosphere is in Sierra Leone, and with the two same issues of, people from, who have dual citizenship, are they able to participate in the political process back home and being refrained or denied that right to do so? I think that's absolutely wrong. First of all, I can never be a president of the United States. I was not born here. I cannot go to the White House one day and aspire to run for any of those positions. I can run for city positions or state positions and so on and so forth, but I will never be qualified to be president or vice president because I was not born in the United States. The country that I'm born should actually see this as a win for them, for us to be able to have access to learning things from back home where we originate from, as well as in the diaspora where we currently live. And so they should not limit us from aspiring for positions as, to run for vice president or president, even some of these constitutional, positions that are there in back home in Sierra Leone. They are limiting us from doing so because they said we have dual citizenships. And if that's what you're referring to, I think that needs to be abolished, that needs to be changed. Our children have access or the opportunity to eventually run for something more in the United States. But I want to be able to give back to my nation where I'm from eventually. So the laws back home need to definitely change with the times that we're in. It's high time that they look at what we can bring to the table, what we are learning. If America can accept us and actually have us playing in their political arena and actually see us as a huge impact to help lift this economy, lift the country into a much more better place than we actually found it, then why shouldn't Sierra Leone, where we originate from, also consider us, though we are dual citizens or we are naturalized citizens from the United States, to eventually, if we so wish, to be able to participate in that, they should also allow us to do that as well. So, that's one of the things that I seriously think that we need to be considered. Back home, I know it happened with the last administration. My knowledge on Sierra Leone politics is limited, but to a point that I know that there's so many powerful, strong people, men and women, who live in the diaspora that can add value to our nation back home, and they should be given the opportunity to do so.
Thank you. Mr. Shillong, why don't you open the line, for callers to call in? Whilst you also, I would like you to as you open the line, I would like you to talk about the importance of a society that believes in a free speech, because free speech or freedom of the press, if we put it in that context, is bulwark of democracy. We cannot lay any moral claims to being a democratic society. That being the case, as you open the lines up, see how you can address that for us as you open the lines.
Well, before I do that, let me just announce to the audience that the lines are open. If we have any caller interested in calling, because we do have people contacting us by various means. Some people contact us through WhatsApp, some people do through Facebook, some people by just calling on the telephone. So we have various numbers at which we can be reached. On WhatsApp, it is 343-997-5828. 343-997-5828. Of course, 1 before the 343. If you're calling from Australia, it is +61 280 064 352. +61 280 064 352. If you're calling from the UK, it will be +44 203 239-9581. From the UK, plus 44-203-239-9581. And of course, our toll-free line is 1-866. Well, the 866, you don't necessarily have to do the one. So it could be 866-944-7722. 866-944-7722. So callers, if you're listening and you're interested in interacting with us, you're quite welcome to use any of these lines, depending on where you are, to call in and also to send in your written comments or questions. Thank you in that respect. Ms. Franca, so one of the things I just wanted you to elaborate on, now it's clear that your background, well, it doesn't necessarily make you unique, but it makes you, in many ways, an important person in adding diversity to the composition of the city council if you were to win. So that said, how do you think your diversity, seeing things from different perspectives, as someone raised in 2 continents, in Africa and then in Asia, and 2 or 3 distinct countries, you do have a vast variety of perspective. So can you tell us how you can use that diversity, those different perspectives in enriching the composition of the city council if you are elected?
Thank you so much, Mr. Shillan. I think that my background enables me to, weigh in and actually help with us having a voice on council. When things are considered in terms of budget, in terms of votes and so on city council currently as it is, though we have a really wonderful lady who has been representing the international community by having married someone from our community, yet still she does not come with the lived experiences that we have as people from, the international community. Being married to one or knowing someone from the international community does not make you one. We came to this country, we have a lot of struggles, we have a lot of, we have a lot of good things and bad things that we bring along with us. And I think that actually having someone on council who consider all aspects of the community at large in terms of the different demographics that live here, and when making those votes, to actually make sure that we make one that affects all the communities, not just thinking of ones that they are affiliated with, but also all of us, here as international communities. I think that's lacking in Greensboro. I think there's a hindrance in Greensboro wherein we're not considered at all. We're here, we're paying our taxes, we're contributing to the economy of this city, yet still we do not have a voice. We are limited in so many ways. And I think that if I was to become an elected official on Greensboro City Council, I will bring that with me. I'll bring that with me in many aspects, in terms of speaking to my community members, hearing what they have to say, and someone with the lived experiences from Africa, from Asia, and the United States, bringing that perspective and looking and saying, hey, hold on for a second. This affects these people adversely. How can we address it so that it's beneficial to all our community members, people who actually have a say in this city, but yet still there's no voice? So I'm really excited about the possibility of actually having real representation on Greensboro City Council than having others speak on our behalf. We can speak for ourselves. We can speak for ourselves. We can address certain things that are of concern to us. And I think it's high time that they allow us the opportunity to do so, to show our strength, to show that, yes, we come with a multitude of strength, multitude of wisdom. Our diversity actually enhances the city versus takes away. The United States was built on backs of immigrants. The United States was built on backs of people that they brought to the US. to slave and do all this hard work. It's hard time that they recognize what we bring to the table and that we're actually an addition, not a subtraction from here. And I'm excited to be able to weigh in on some of these things and say, hey, these communities need it this way. Let's consider this for a change. And I think that small change, also as a young progressive woman myself, I have a lot of beliefs and so on. I think that will add value to the city, and I'm excited to bring that on board. As Mr. Kutubu was saying, having the ability to have freedom of speech, being able to speak for our people, hear from them, and maybe even bring them with me, carry them, on my backs and alongside with me as I go through this process. That's all I'm longing to do. That's all I'm hoping to do. I'm hoping to serve our community as best as I can. I'm hoping to be of service to the international community and to all people, white, Black, Asians, African Americans, because this is where I'm from. This is where I live. This is where I own a home. This is where I own a business. And I want to make sure that our voices are heard and that we can contribute greatly to enhancing and making Greensboro that much better. Thank you.
Mr. Shino, why don't you see if we have any call, and then at the same time, I'd like you to tell the people they are free to talk in Creole. They can ask, the question, because our guest is just as vast in Creole as they themselves. So why don't you see if we have any call on the line, and then give them the privilege, give them the opportunity, give them the option of asking the questions in Creole or making their contributions in Creole.
Okay, thank you. We do have some calls. So for those back in Africa or in Sierra Leone, because in Creole, which is our common language or lingua franca, so to speak, is only spoken. The type of Creole we speak is only spoken in Sierra Leone. So we're going to be asking people, if you're listening from Freetown or if you are within the continental USA and you want to call as usual to ask a question in Creole, don't feel compelled that you have to frame your questions in English. You can call and ask the question in the normal way that you've been used to calling, and Ms. Franca, who speaks Creole perfectly, will be able to answer you both in Creole and in English. So please don't feel restrained from calling by virtue of the fact that we've been speaking English. We've only been doing this because the office for which she's running in Greensboro is mostly local, and it has a constituency of people who understand mostly English. So that's the reason. But since we are broadcasting worldwide, and particularly for people back home, please feel free to call, ask your questions in Creole. That said, we had some callers. Is there any caller on the line? Hello, caller. Okay, maybe we lost some of the callers, but I've seen some written questions. One of which was, Ms. Franca, people wanted to know, they've heard you, but they want to know if you are a conservative, a liberal, if you are a centrist, or and so what are you politically? Do you have a political ideology? And so if you can tell us that. So let me just add to that. Someone also asked that, how do you go about mending or solidifying the relationship between Black Americans and indigenous Africans who are here, Africans like us, who were raised, who were born back home, but we live here now. This is home for us. We have several commonalities with Black Americans, and some of us who are citizens now do refer to ourselves as African American, appropriately so. So some questions have come in asking, how do you plan? I can see evidence of it now because Bernard, Ms. Sheila, these are, I presume, indigenous American Blacks with whom you are working and who are working with you. So it looks like you know what it takes to do it, but we want to hear it from your own mouth based upon some of the questions that have been coming in.
Okay. Yes, thank you so much. And so I'm a Democrat. I'm affiliated with the Democratic Party, if that's what you're asking, sir. I'm someone who has somewhat of a liberal view in a lot of things, but mainly the democratic part is where I am in terms of how I think we need to do things in this country to make sure that everybody has access and has the opportunities we need to move forward. I am, someone who runs a nonprofit organization. So, having done so, my political affiliation in the past has always been non-affiliated in a lot of ways, but in terms of how I vote, has always been a democratic manner. And the party I'm affiliated with for political purposes has been the Democratic Party. So that's how I am. I've been termed, I've been affiliated with and pushed in that part of things. So, I hope that answers your questions. I am a Democrat. Thank you. Next, I think the next question was in terms of how do I build the bridges between our African American friends and our African friends who are Americans also by virtue of naturalization, being that it's by operation of law, having a parent who is a U.S. citizen and then deriving that status from your parents or going through the naturalization process. And someone who is in charge of representing people with immigration proceedings, we definitely know that. I know Mr. Shillon will, understand very much about the operational law type of thing. But how do we build those bridges? How do we make sure that the African Americans and the Africans know that we are one in this, we are the same in this, and that we should not be fighting each other? I started with uniting all of us. I started my talk today in terms of how making sure that our community is united and one group does not feel better than the other. And also one group does not feel like we're taking away options from them. I feel like, and I see a lot of times my African American friends are saying, well, maybe they're treating you guys differently because you came to the US now, you are an immigrant versus us who have gone through this systematic racism. I think that the time, if we are to unite ourselves and to actually see ourselves as one group, as Black people, be it that, your ancestors came from somewhere or you're first generation or second generation immigrants and so on, I think that's the time that we're going to be making changes. Once we see ourselves as one, and understand that the only way that we can make a difference for all of us, we're better off together in this fight than separating us by things we have no control of. While we worried about, how our ancestors came here and how we came here and so on, when we have one common goal. So one of the things that I've always done over the years is to help my African American friends know that, first of all, understand their heritage, being that some of them may know where they originate from and some may not. But I always encourage them to trace their DNA to figure out where they're from originally. If they have any interest in that, that would help them understand where they're from, because we cannot know where we're going if we don't understand or remember where we're from. So one of the things I talk to my friends, and I know Tim has heard that sometimes, and Sheena, is, tracing our DNAs, tracing their DNAs to find out where they're from. I know Tim says that he believes he's from Ivory Coast, and I'm like, no, you're from Sierra Leone. His DNA thinks he's from Ivory Coast. Cote d'Ivoire. I said, no, you're from Sierra Leone. So we have these arguments sometimes with my American friends whose ancestors came to the US, were brought to the US involuntarily, but at the same time, they have a place of origin. So encouraging them and talking to them about some of these things, and also seeing it in a way that we are all benefiting from this in the same way in terms of how we're viewed. Because like I said, anywhere I go, I'm a Black woman first and foremost. I'm a Black woman, I'm treated as such, just like he is, just like she is, before they find out that I'm from somewhere else originally, you know. So I think that, you know, encouraging the talks, encouraging everybody to come to the table, sit at the table, let's address some of these things that affect all of us as equals, as Black people in our community, versus focusing on the negative, where you're from, where I'm from, and so on. And also those who have an interest in knowing where their ancestors originate from, encouraging them to do so. Then we can, you know, understand in terms of how we do things and how the ancestors do things, and so on, and just kind of build that bridge. There is a lot that we can do together as one community. We go through the same struggles than worrying about our differences. So I'm focusing on the positive. I'm going to continue to focus on the good parts of us and work on dealing with the things that may not be so nice. But yes, there's some work to be done in that aspect, and I'm willing to do that. I have friends from all over, and that's why purposely today I brought some of my campaign team, one of them from Sierra Leone, one of them from Swaziland, another country, you know, and in Africa, and then I have my American friends and so on, to just show that we are, and I am willing to work with all demographics. I'm willing to work with everyone, be it that they are natives of Greensboro or, you know, Asian, white, Black, whatever the case may be. We're in this together, and we're one community, and that's how we're going to keep on moving. And that's why I want to be an at-large representative for the city of Greensboro.
With that said, though, now let me just get into your head and see what would be your perspective about the fact that in contemporary Sierra Leone, I mean, I don't want to divorce your campaign from actually what happens in your ancestral home. The youths in Sierra Leone are engaged in what I call self-destruction. Violence has become a way of life. Violence, political violence. They fail to understand that their destiny lies in their own hands. They allow the politicians to use them, misuse, and abuse them and dump them. Even though you'll be running for an office in here, but I'm sure you would like to see Sierra Leone be an egalitarian and just society where everybody has a role to play towards the nation's socio-economic, political, and cultural advancement. What is your advice to youths back home who are very oblivious of what the future holds for them? What message do you want to send to them?
Well, I think I'm going to deliver this message in Creole, in our lingua franca. So make me people know say me they talk Creole. Good one. Me na Timini woman, and you know, marry Fula, and at the same time, you know, until they you know, they talk the Fula small, and they talk the Asian language there, and they talk the American language. But the Creole now we own. Creole now we no more get in a Salone the way how they talk. So one thing I want to tell the youth them na Salone is that first of all, for understand the issues the way they go on in the country. May they understand the political, you know, atmosphere in a Salone, how the people and they do things, the politicians and they do things them. May they make informed decisions then how they move forward. If we don't understand the issues, then we not understand what they affect we just go by whether they give we bad rest, whether they give we right now na fufu, and you say that they give people them that there's bikini and so on. Then they buy we vote them with food products and so on, and then they use we for go fetch them water, for go fetch for them in a way we're not supposed to do. I think say one thing we need for do back now for go back to the drawing board in the school system then in the communities and so on for understand whether they do what's in our country, not to really for support party na the way for go, you know, now for support the people that we know say really go address the things that we will need in a Salone for make we better. Because if me better tomorrow and me neighbor them better, me picking them better and so on, now that way they would able to improve like we nation yonder. Now the same to me they try for do now. I want make where we start with this so now, so we start with picking them born. We start get people them. We don't they move blindly. I want me picking them understand. I make I bring them now today. May they understand what they go on. We get for they talk to the youth them. We get for talk to them for may they understand the system, for may they understand what's right from wrong. May they not begin to fool them with food products there, with sweets, with candy, and see that's what they call an candy. I think so we get for begin the enforce say, we pick them for know the issues in our salon. Not to waiting on them we on our social media, but from waiting now or waiting one party say, may them make a decision based on national news, based on waiting the education system they teach them, the school them, where get the knowledge of governance. Back home na Salone have been small, we been get religious knowledge, we been get waiting self then they call ourselves who they learn about the government and so on and Salone. I don't know if they still get them. Civics, exactly. I don't know if they still get them, but we need for go back to that drawing board, for bring good governance back in Salone, for understand what's not the rule of law, for understand the constitution well, make all my understanding today, for understand how the democratic rights going forward. Sorry, me create some thinking they can mess up, but we have to understand how we will move forward based on the democratic rights. So good governance, na Salone, and democracy for all, na that for the practice. So what do they hope for in 2023 a free and fair election? When I really understand the people the way they come and what they bring to the table. And when I look, we don't give APC chance for rule, we don't give SLPP chance for rule. When I look for see who's one better, and then other party then they back again. Consider who's one will really do good for the people there. I know say not all man perfect. I know say not to all party them perfect. But the one way better for Salone, the one way that historically they do good for the people them, now we need for consider. And not just the party no more, but the people that we get for lead way forward. The woman them, we get Boku strong woman in a Salone, where they will do so much. That for consider them in government in Salone. That for consider them inside leadership in Salone. Just like how they consider me inside leadership in America. Me a woman, but not for just cook and clean no more and for one span or born picking. We they will add value in our country. And at the same thing as Salone, when I consider the woman them. And the man them back where they before. When I consider for bring them forward, for support them, make them do waiting good for the country. Make we make informed decision, make we make good choices then, because the next person where they lead come 2023 election will last stay for another 4 years. So do you are the big? Make we consider whether we get for elect for be with next leaders in our Salone. And we are the youth them, we are the future leaders there. We are for the land from the mistake them of we ancestors, of we parents them, of we papa and mama them. Make we make Salone better. Salone can be better. And we able work together for do that day. And the issue of tribalism, this tribe, this religion, we not got a religious problem, but the tribe and business, we get for stop that, we get for unite. Just like how they talk about how the African American and how the African in the unite. Now that same day we say in Salone, we get for look past women day with Timmy, with Fuller background, with Creole background. We look for the people that were able be a voice for, we were able to push people forward. Yeah, at the big one, and I look listen to them today. Thank you.
Mr. Jalloh, I'd like you to ask her the final. I would like you to ask her the final question. And when she comes back, she give us her closing remarks. So go ahead and ask her the final question for this segment.
Well, okay. Before I ask the final question, I would like to speak to Tim and Sheila back there, because I am really proud that they have been very supportive of the sister. I'm proud of you guys. I've been here quite a while. Sometimes I'm a little bit embarrassed to say how long I've been here, in a positive way. So, but I've seen a lot of changes in my life since I came to this country. I'm in my 70s now. I came here when I was in my early 20s. So you figure the rest out. And so I have fought hard to hold on to my accent, because before I came to this country, she would tell you, or maybe Miss Franca is much younger than I am, part of the mentality was we wanted to come abroad. If you go to England, if you come to America, you want to sound like an American. You want to pretend you've lost your accent. You want to pretend you can't speak your native dialect anymore. And when you went to England, that was the mentality. Many years ago when I came back, we were not proud of anything. I mean, everything about us was secondary or inferior to everything else. Then I came to America, and well, first of all, I went to an HBCU. So I began to really figure out what I really was. And that there was pride in being black. There was pride in being an African. There was pride in maintaining your distinct quality of. In fact, before I came here, I never heard the vocabulary accent. Never heard it before. So when the first time I came and people would look at me, I look like the regular guy from here. And then when I talk, I sounded different. They say, well, where are you from? And I say, well, I'm from Africa. And people will jerk back and say, Africa? Where did you learn to speak English? Africans don't speak English. And then I will say, well, I learned it over there. Well, how come? Because do you guys have schools over there? I say, yeah, we have schools. We speak French, we speak English, we speak Spanish, we speak German. Africa has various areas that were colonized by the white people, and it becomes very interesting, and the conversation gets interesting because many years ago, I'm telling you, people knew, particularly down south, people knew very little about Africa because the image of us then was about Tarzan, the white guy who's sprung from tree to tree, and that we live in huts and on trees, and that we didn't have houses, we didn't have roads, we didn't have anything. So we've come a long way. And then, so I began to realize myself, and people would tell me, I love your accent. Well, if I have something you love, why can't I keep it? Why do I want to change to be sound like an American, and I will be a fake? I will not be authentic. So that made me want to be what I was, to be proud of what. And then the other thing that was so interesting, and I say this by way of education, everybody, even some Africans who are listening, people will say, they will say, well, for me, people didn't find my name particularly foreign. But there are some of us, because we have history of slave trade, particularly in Sierra Leone, where we're from, because some liberated slaves from Nova Scotia, from Canada, from Europe, from the Caribbean, went back to Africa. And so it's not uncommon for a Sierra Leonean to be called Jones, Williams, Johnson. And people couldn't figure that out. So people will ask some of my homeboys, what's your name? The guy says, my name is Harold Williams. And they say, yeah, I know, that's your name, but what is your African name? And so my homeboy is kind of puzzled. That's the only name I've known, Harold Williams. And so he repeats it, Harold Williams. And then people say, I know that, but that's your slave name. What is your true African name? People found difficulty understanding that some of us did not have what you all may consider to be typical African name because of the history of some having gone back with Western names. I'm saying all of this so to bridge the gap, to let people know we have more in common than we have that separates us. And there are many things to look into. And for me, I find it particularly encouraging, refreshing to see Ms. Jalloh having team, having Sheila on the team, as well as, you cannot think of a more diverse group of people campaigning for one candidate than what I'm seeing. So I'm very proud of you guys, and I want to say thank you on behalf of the community. I don't need to thank you for Ms. Jalloh. She would thank you herself. So, Ms. Jalloh, that said, now you've told us, one important comment. Most of us who live here now struggle to speak the very Creole because we've been speaking English for so long that we have to. So if you heard Ms. Jalloh saying, understand, which is English because some of the words will come across to you and you know clearly it's an English word. But if she were back home, it would just come to her naturally. She will use the word sabi, but that will come to you naturally when you're talking back home to the people or to one of our. But when we try to juggle between the two languages, sometimes we inject a lot of English words into it. But that said, Ms. Franca, Ms. Jalloh, I'm sorry. Please tell us, if you were to win or succeed, do you have, I know what your answer is going to be, but there are some questions that must be asked. Do you have any long-term political aspirations? That's simple.
Well, that's an interesting question. I started off saying that, I said no to even running for city council in Greensboro. My aim or my objective was never to get involved in politics, but it seems like it's calling my name. It's pushing me and pulling me forward towards it. And I'm going to take this as a start. Um, I'm not sure what the future holds, but whatever is destined for me, whatever God has in store for me, wherever He wants me to go, I'll let the Spirit lead me. So I'm going to leave it on as that for now. Right now, I just want to get into Greensboro City Council. My objective and my whole, everything I do on a day-to-day basis, besides my everyday work running the Immigration Legal Service Department that I run, is to make sure that we have representation on Greensboro City Council. That's a start. And going forward, if God, Allah, leads me towards running for more in North Carolina, then I'm going to take that step without fear. But if this is where I need to stop and there are more qualified people than me, or there's other things in store for me, then I'll branch towards that department. But for now, I would say, let me complete one step at a time. Let's take this one step at a time. And waiting God mark, now they do. Waiting God mark. I know they say no, I know they say yes. Now waiting God mark for me. If that's the will of God, so shall it be. Thank you.
Amen.
Okay. And you
We say amen
having
in
said all
Creole,
this,
we say amen in English. Amen.
okay, having said all this, Ms. Franca, can you now, on behalf of all your colleagues back there, especially your beautiful, beautiful daughters who are giving you this wonderful support, can you now say, give us your very last comment, in the context of the mission you've set yourself for?
Well, first of all, I want to thank the viewers them on VOS. Thank you so much for taking time to tune in to watch this segment. Not so easy thing for me as foreigner in America for God for this office Nayasu. But they ask for our support and they ask for our all support. This not a time for me to consider we tribe, we religion, or we party them any affiliation they will get now. But now time for make we move forward and make sure say how we meet this world today with a left farm in a much more better place. So I they ask for our support, all the Salone family them around the world. Now Australia, England, Salone, America, any South Sound a day. Dear at the big winner for make winner support me as I run for Greensboro City Council at large. This not so for me. At the end of the day, now we all name they go before. If I make them, if I do good, if I don't do good out, that we all name they go before. So that for pray for me, when I pray for goodness, when I pray for mercy, when I pray say God will lead me in the right direction, make I continue for advocates, make we bring good name that's alone. So I go open doors for more free for make we go forward. Then I would ask the viewers them. To my children, to my friends, to my campaign team, it means so much to have your support. I know I will not be doing this without each of you. So I want to say thank you to each of you for your support, your encouragement, your time, your energy, just helping me to go through this. And even saying, Franca, we need you to do this. Yes, it's the right thing you're doing, means a lot to me. So I want each of you to know that this is something I do not take for granted. I appreciate each of you. I appreciate having you in my corner. And I'm going to do my best, the very best I can, to keep on moving and making sure that I make each of you proud. And to Mr. Kutubu, Mr. Shilon, and to Mr. Muhammad, I believe, when are the technical support person now the background with VOS. When I thank you for this opportunity. When I thank you for giving me the opportunity for speak to me people then. This is one way to reach Sierra Leoneans around the world. We're proud of Voice of Salone Network. We're proud of having VOS, Mr. Kutubu, we don't hear your voice all over for many, many years, debating and advocating for certain things in our country. Mr. Shilon, you're a legend in our community. We tell God thank you for you. With that, we look up to people like you. We appreciate you and we appreciate what you bring to the table, giving us this opportunity. I am Franca Jalloh, Franca Kaloko Jalloh, and I'm running for Greensboro City Council at large. And I am asking each of you both locally, and internationally, to please give me your full support as I run for this office, just so that we can make a change and do better for ourselves and our children, and we can leave a mark for Sierra Leone that will make all of us better off in the future. All these misconceptions of where we're from, who we are, will be diminished if we're able to move forward and be accepted in the political arena of the United States. So I want to thank you, and we picking them too. I mean, they don't go through a lot and then give me the full permission for make I do this. I ask them first more than 2-3 times for make I do this. So I tell God thank you, say I get everybody with me. Everybody, my mama and my whole family, everybody with me, where they help me for go through this journey. So now thank you, and rest assured, this young, not to joke or anything like that. We will win these elections. I am going to be the next city council member in the city of Greensboro. Thank you so much, and may God bless you now. Have a good afternoon.
Okay, one quick thing, please. Give us a number or how people can reach you, people who want to support you financially.
Oh, yeah.
Can you just run the number?
Please go on our website. It's www.franca4, that's the number 4 council at franca4council@gmail.com is our email address, or franca4council.com is the website. Franca, Franca, the number 4, council, council.com. You can pay on the website on ActBlue. You can also reach through on the website to send an email to us, and also sign up to get our newsletters and get more information on us. We're also on Facebook, on Instagram. You can look for Franca for Council on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and so on, and reach us on social media. That would be the best way to reach us for now. And we are open. I'm also available on WhatsApp also for calls. I think a lot of people know my number globally, but you can look on the website and you'll be able to reach me. Franca for Council. Franca, Franca, the number 4, council.com. Please send me an email. Please reach out on our website and get back to me. Thank you. You can definitely donate on our website. Thanks.
Mr. Kutubu, back to you. Mr. Kutubu.
Yeah, well.
Mr. Shillon, thank you. And Mr. Kutubu, thank you for everything.
Oh, of course. I mean, it's not only a pleasure, but a duty. Because this, all this is a part of the Salone and that we widen the fabric of communication, then TND. And by God power, we will bring again one of your other colleagues, because waiting very significant and abiding that 3 of them they run for AW. So you, Sia, with the other lady in Montgomery County. And I must tell you, we enormously proud of Una. That make by God power, we tell viewers thank you for when they give the privilege and opportunity for bringing Una for council case Una. We really appreciate what they do, and hopefully by next week we'll bring the other person, and we will stay in touch. Except from the Salone Talk Forum when they deal with issues, comment and analysis. I'll continue, and we'll put this link, we will put our mouth, let people see them. But again, we tell you thank you, we gladly let God, the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Ghost, the Iakna Budu, the Iakna Stein, let God, let how you don't start this journey here will be similar like money Rahim. Let it come there with Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, who all will be proud of you, so that you will go fly down with green, white, and blue among the 50 stars of the United States. So thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
So you guys, when I can log out now, I mean, when I can, log out,
Well, thank you so much, and have a good day.
You too,
the same. Take care, team. Take care, Sheila.
Thank you.
Mr. Shillon, I'll reach out to you in the future.
All right, ma'am. Okay. Bye-bye.
So, Mr. Shillon?
Yes, sir.
My name is Franca Jalloh, and it is my privilege to run for Greensboro City Council at large. I am so proud to call the city my home today. This is where my story is unfolding, But this is not where it started. As most of you may know, I am not a native of this great nation. I moved to the United States over 2 decades ago from Sierra Leone in West Africa. One of my earliest memories in Sierra Leone was living with loving, hard-working parents and my 4 siblings. My parents believed that girls deserved to have just as many opportunities to thrive as boys did, despite the fact that the dominant culture did not value girls as much as it did with sons. We lived in an unsafe environment. My parents made a brave choice to move our family out of Sierra Leone to Brunei, Southeast Asia, where I spent my formative teenage years. College brought me to America, and I have worked hard to be where I am today. I know what it feels like to be in fear for my safety and for the safety of my family. And that's why I've strived to live a meaningful, safe, and productive lifestyle. As a member of Greensboro's Criminal Justice Advisory Commission and the Police Community Review Board, I am committed to directly addressing the increasing rates of violence in Greensboro. I care about my community, all of my community, and I have demonstrated my level of care through my leadership and my volunteerism. I am also a mother of 3 beautiful daughters, and I wholeheartedly believe that the quality education of our children is one of our most powerful investments. In addition to public safety and education, I am a strong advocate for business equity and a city that paves the way for robust economic opportunities for all hardworking people who deserve the chance to make a decent living as an employee or an entrepreneur. I believe that we can achieve so much more together than we could if we continued in the polarizing manner we have sadly become so accustomed to. I am a bridge builder and a unifier who has the experience, stamina, and the intellect required for a position of this magnitude. Now let's be honest, even though every hardworking person deserves these fundamental things in life, that is not always the reality. I'm here to advocate for those individuals who know that under truly equitable circumstances, our lives would be different. They would be better. In my experience, there are 4 common areas of concerns for citizens of any city, regardless of our backgrounds. We all want similar things in life. We want safe and comfortable living conditions, quality education for ourselves and our children, a sense of protection and accountability, and most of all, we want to be able to use our skills and expertise in order to make a decent living and thrive. Between now and the elections in March 2022, my team and I will be hosting a series of campaign events. I would love to meet you. Your voice matters and your experience matters. My name is Franca Jalloh, and I am your candidate for Greensboro City Council at Large. Thank you.